There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Grace and peace to you. Thank you, Don, for that song. Thank you for singing it. It's my favorite. Please keep in prayer all those mentioned today. Mike talked about that one note in the bulletin where the church in Nipro is setting aside that time on Wednesday to pray. Now, they're not coming together to do that. They're just in their own homes, wherever they are. They're going to stop and spend some time in prayer. And as the note says, that's 7 o'clock their time, and it's noon for us. So if you want to remember them, and we can collectively bring our prayers to God on Wednesdays at noon here, then you're welcome to do that. Okay, we're going to talk about those who are nameless today. Nameless in Scripture. But we begin with thoughts about competition. Competition in the world is fierce, as you know. In fact, it's even cutthroat. Whether we're talking about athletics, politics, business, school, celebrities, competition is great to get to the top. People want to be recognized. They want their name to be out there. They want to be first. They want to be number one. They want to be chosen. You know, we can even see this in our children. You know, when they're in something in school, whether it's a play or in the band or whatever, even athletics, they want to be recognized. And even the little ones, you know, up there on the stage, sometimes they looking for mom and dad rather than doing what they're supposed to be doing on the stage. Looking, you see me up here? Nothing wrong with that. We know that recognition brings glory and honor, awards, prestige, feeds our pride, but it also leads to lots of money today, right? To be first, to be number one. Our advertisements, of course, we see them everywhere, promoting our products, that our product is number one. Our service is the best. We are recognized by this and that company or organization as being good. We are the official company of the yellow salamanders or the green goblins, you know, so buy our truck or buy our pills or whatever it is. We all want the recognition. And then I know you have seen in the sports, somebody hits a home run, somebody scores a touchdown, somebody slides in across home plate, and right? That's me. Yeah, we did it. Absolutely. I do kind of like the guys who go like this. Yeah. And then this thing with the college athletes now with the NIL, name, image, and likeness. And we're not going to debate about, you know, is that right or wrong? But it's about money, isn't it? It's about money. If you're going to use my name or something, a picture of me doing something to promote your product or whatever, then I want a piece of the pie. I want my share. God is not opposed to people being honored. We read that in Romans 13:7, but there's a time and a place and a certain purpose for doing so. Let's go to Matthew 6. Because you see, the kingdom of heaven is not like that. And we have to remember that. It's difficult. We do live in the world. We do need to compete. I understand that. And we want to do that in the right way. But in the kingdom, things are different. Matthew 6:1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father who is in heaven. So when you give to the poor, do not sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be honored by men. I guess that was really a practice in the day. They would toot their own horn, literally, to say, look how much I'm putting into the pot. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. But when you give to the poor, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving will be in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. When you pray, you're not to be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, so that they may be seen by men. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. But you, when you pray, go into your inner room, close your door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. It's a very different thing in the kingdom. Colossians 3:24 says, remember, it is the Lord Christ whom you serve. And then one I don't have on your list that came to my mind as I was reviewing this lesson is Proverbs 27:2. You might want to jot that one down. It says, let another praise you and not the words of your own mouth. Interesting. So we want to look in this lesson today at two instances where the Lord praised people, honored them greatly. And we're going to try to learn what we can from these. The first one is there from Mark 14, starting in chapter 3. Both of these happen to be ladies. While he was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper and reclining at the table, there came a woman with an alabaster vial, a very costly perfume of pure nard. And she broke the vial and poured it over his head. But some were indignantly remarking to one another, why has this perfume been wasted? For this perfume might have been sold for over 300 denarii, and the money given to the poor. And they were scolding her. But Jesus said, let her alone. Why do you bother her? She has done a good deed to me. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you wish, you can do good to them, but you do not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body before the burial. Truly, I say to you, wherever the gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be spoken of in memory of her. There you have it. And indeed, we have it. We have the story of what she did. This woman, her heart was really ready to do good. Obviously, she had heard of Jesus, heard of his teaching, whatever she might have heard or seen him do, maybe the healings. I like to think that was the case. But she was ready to do good. And once again, we point out that this is found in Scripture in many places, that God's people are to be ready to do good. a heart that is prepared and looking for opportunities to do good. So she took this opportunity. Jesus was there in Simon's house. I think she must have lived nearby. She heard he was there, and this is something she wanted to do. In verse 8, it says that Jesus said she has done what she could. She thought this would be a good thing. I mean, what actually could you do for Jesus? Not a whole lot you could do for the Lord, right? Well, you could entertain him in your house if you need the place to stay, give him something to eat, but beyond that, what else can you do for Jesus? I'm not talking about serving him, but so this is something that she thought she could do, and she did do it. She said this would be a good thing to do. And that's what she did. So again, the thought comes to us, do we see people in need and look for opportunities to help them? Do we kind of look around and say, what would be a good thing to do for so-and-so, or a good thing to do in this situation? Is our mind thinking that way, or are we always just thinking about ourselves and what we need to do for ourselves? She was obviously thinking about Jesus and wanted to do something for him. She was willing to give or sacrifice this perfume or ointment. There was a lot of debate about, well, how did this woman get this very costly nard, which was a special scented oil, I guess, from India. That's what the footnote said. Worth 300 denarii, which is almost a whole year's worth of wages. Some had speculated, well, she must have earned it out on the street, selling her body, but, that's just pure speculation. We don't know. Maybe she worked hard cleaning houses and just saved it up, the money, and bought it. Why would she have it? We don't know, but she did, and she was willing to sacrifice it and to give it. So again, the example is set for us. What are we willing to give or to give up for the good of others and for the service of others? Are we willing to actually sacrifice something? She sets an example for us here. She was willing to risk the repercussions that might come from her actions. It says the disciples were scolding her. You shouldn't have done that. You should have sold it and give the money to the poor. Maybe she thought that might happen. I don't know. We can kind of picture this situation there. Jesus is in Simon's house with the disciples. I don't know if it was an all-male gathering or not. Oftentimes that was the case. But here she comes. I don't think she was invited. And she was willing to go in there in this situation and face whatever would happen, whatever repercussions might come to her, because she wanted to do this. She overcame any fears or doubts that she might have had in doing this for Jesus. And so she sets an example for us there, because sometimes we are really deterred by fear, aren't we? We are afraid, well, what if I do that? What will people say? What will they do to me? What will they think about me? And we don't do what we want to do or know we should do. But she overcame whatever fear there might have been there and went ahead and went into that situation and poured that oil on Jesus' head. The disciples, once again, they didn't get it. They were focused on the money part of it and the poor, and they failed to discern the most important thing at the moment, Jesus' impending death. And believe me, everything was there to show that it was going to happen. This is after the triumphal entry. Jesus had told them several times this is going to happen. They should have been thinking about this, known it was coming, that it was near. But they weren't. And again, the question comes to us, do we see the true need at the moment? Do we think through the situation? What is really happening here? What is the need? What is going on? It's something for us also to consider. So Jesus rebuked the disciples for their response. He praised the woman for her deed, for her gift, for what she did. She has anointed my body for burial. He honored her. He honored her. And of course, in verse 9, he really honored her because he said, we're going to have this in the book so that when people read the gospel, they're going to remember what she did. What a great honor that is. And every time we read this gospel, we read about what this woman did. She's honored by God. But we don't know her name. Isn't that interesting? But Jesus does. He knows who she is. And you see, that's the kingdom. She remains nameless. What she did is more important for us to know than who she was. Her example is more important than her name. And that's the lesson for us. Jesus knows each one of us. So when we're doing things for the Lord, sometimes we're not thanked. Sometimes people don't even know what we did. And God says, that's okay, because I know. I know what you did. I saw what you did. And you will be rewarded on the last day. Let's look at the next one here in Matthew 15. I'm going to start with verse 21. Jesus went away from there and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. Now that was up to the north, and that was actually out of Judea, out of the Israel territory. And a Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." But he did not answer a word. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us," or shouting behind us. But he answered and said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from the master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed at once. A Canaanite woman, the Mark account of this says she was a Syrophoenician. That means she was a Gentile. And at this time, we've been studying in our Bible class about Jews and Gentiles. Jesus wasn't sent to the Gentiles. He was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, as he himself said. Right there in verse 24. I didn't come for your benefit. I came for Israel. Now we know eventually that Gentiles were brought into the kingdom, but Jesus wasn't sent to them. She has a great need, a demon-possessed daughter, cruelly or severely oppressed. You mothers would identify with that. Some of you fathers would too. You have a child that's really sick, ill. You want help for that child. You want them to be well. Get over whatever it is. You hate to see them suffering. I think all parents have been there. She's obviously, again, heard of Jesus, his ability to heal, his power to heal. And I find it interesting, even though she's a Canaanite, a Gentile woman, she calls him, what does she say? Lord, Son of David. How does she know that? That's a Jewish phrase. Jesus is the Son of David. Has she been listening? Learning? Thinking? Sounds like it to me. She was on the right track. She seemed to know who he was in regard to being the Messiah of Israel. She also understood the extreme separation of Jew and Gentile. But she was not going to let her be deterred by this to get help for her child. She's determined and relentless, and she will not even stop at the disciples telling her to go away. Wow. Jesus said that's great faith. She would not be stopped by people telling her, don't do this. How many of us are, as we already mentioned, talk ourselves out of things because of fear or whatever. We say, well, that's not going to work. That won't do any good. God won't help me. Where is our faith? This woman is a great example of faith. To believe God and to persevere in the face of adversity, in the face of her. You know, Jesus didn't come for her people at that time. His disciples said, go away. She said, no way, I'm not stopping. In verse 24, Jesus reminds her of who he is. I only came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, young lady. I'm sorry. But the next verse says she bows down and says, Lord, help me. She says, that's all right. I still want you to help me. In essence, she's asking him to break the rules, isn't she? Yes? Amen? Yeah. She says, I don't care. I don't care if you're only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I want you to help me. What did Jesus do? Gives her a little parable. Not good to take the children's bread, that's Israel, and throw it to the dogs, that's the Gentiles. That's the parable. Sounds a little harsh, doesn't it? What'd she do? She's not going to be deterred by that either. She said, Lord, she says, yes, Lord, that's right. But even the dog get the crumbs off the table. Jesus says, your faith is great. Be it to you as you wish. Your daughter's healed. She is honored by Jesus, by his very words. Your faith is great. Well, I pray that on that day, he would say that to each one of us. Your faith was great. You persevered. You didn't quit. You did this. You did that under terrible circumstances, adverse conditions. Whatever it was, your faith was great. However, she's here. She's in this great gospel. We don't know her name either, do we? No, we don't. But we know of her faith. And she sets an example for us. Even though we don't know her name, but Jesus does. And that's all that matters. Serving the Lord, as we mentioned, can be difficult. At times, there's adversity, problems, those who stand in our way, situations that stand in our way, circumstances that are difficult. Sometimes we're doing it alone. Nobody else seems to want to help us. We're not thanked for what we did. Seems to go unnoticed. Our faith is tested. But we need to go ahead and do it anyway. Do it for the Lord. Our last two verses, John 10:14. Jesus said, I'm the good shepherd, and I know my own, and my own know me. He knows you. He knows your name, knows your situation, knows your problems, your pains, your aches, your faith, your struggles. Spiritually, he knows all about you. He sees all you do. And believe me, when we do good for him, do the right thing, he appreciates it, and he's making a note of it. And then 2 Timothy 2:19. Nevertheless, the firm foundation of God stands, having this seal: the Lord knows those who are his. He knows you by name, and he will reward you on the last day. Whether what you've done here goes noticed or not, that you're thanked for it or not, that you're recognized for it or not, Jesus sees, Jesus knows, and Jesus knows your name. You will be thankful, you will be thanked, and honored and rewarded on that last day. God bless you.